top of page 20. Toronto Fire Services, briefing note number 28, requested at our last meeting of the fire chief, and there's a briefing note entitled Toronto Fire Services Response Times that's been provided for your consideration, and we would recommend receipt for information.
Okay, recommendation is for receipt. Does anyone need to have further clarification on that briefing note? There being none from visiting councillors, none from committee members, anyone that needs to speak to this item, none from... You want to ask a question? Okay, Councillor Parker.
I just invite staff to share with the rest of you what they shared with me this morning as to the challenge of gathering statistics on the matter, subject matter of this report.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the Deputy of Operations will speak to it.
Through the Chair. Thank you, Councillor Parker. We went out in an attempt to glean additional information as requested by the Councillor in this briefing note, and we found it extremely difficult, and it continues to be. So we wrote the briefing note in a manner that addressed average response times, which many departments are willing to share. And we addressed average response times from Toronto's perspective. We also addressed the 90th percentile, which is the true measure that we are judged by and always try to move towards. And the only department that we could find on the web that clearly posted that was our friends in Calgary, a rather progressive department. And if you turn to, I believe it's the second or third page, you'll see the subtitle Calgary, and that's pretty much the apples to apples comparison, and that's the dilemma we have, is there's misunderstandings on truly what response times mean, and we think the only way to address this is to be transparent and to share our data, which is what we did in that study. So that's the only department we can locate that measures by the 90th. And we hold ourselves up to them, knowing we're not as good as them, and feel we can get there with a number of initiatives that are currently underway.
Okay, it's not hard to figure out what we're measuring when we measure averages. What are we measuring when we measure the 90th percentile?
I wish my counterpart was here, Councillor, that helped us this morning. The 90th percentile is pretty much 9 times out of 10 when we deliver the service at the level requested. If I may read on the bottom of page 2, top of page 3, the 90th percentile means that the response time occurs 9 out of 10 times. For example, if a response occurs in 97 seconds at the 90th percentile, this means that 90% of the time the response occurs in 97 seconds or less.
Okay, and why is that a more helpful measure than averaging?
Well, it's my interpretation of it is that it holds us accountable to our customers, that if you phone and request service from us, to say that we would get there on an average or 50% of the time is one thing, but when you phone across the city and say that when do you get there, we can say 9 times out of 10 you can expect our service in this time frame.
And when you ask around for other departments to give their corresponding information, what has your experience been?
They're being open and saying that they don't calculate it on the 90th. They have averages.
So why do you calculate it? I mean, you're telling us that the 90th percentile is a more reliable measure. Why do you use that measure and share it with us, and others seem not to?
And perhaps, Chief, if you want to help me here, but at Amalgamation, we moved towards some NFPA targets, which are all in the 90th percentile with respect to road response time and alarm dispatch time, all those types of things. And we've always continued to report out on that measure as it truly holds us to a customer service perspective.
So do I understand you to be saying that measuring to the 90th percentile is a recognized industry standard form of measurement?
If I, through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor, yes, that is correct. NFPA standards, National Fire Protection Association standards, are based on a 90th percentile, 9 times out of 10. NFPA 1221 and NFPA 1710 are the standards in front of us, and they're measured at the 90th percentile.
And what you seem to be telling us is that you are disclosing your numbers, Calgary is disclosing their numbers, but not many other departments are disclosing their numbers according to this measure.
Councillor, that is clear. I mean, we have been fully transparent as an organization to ensure what our actual response time numbers have been, and whether previously be pre-amalgamation in averages, post-amalgamation in 90th percentiles. Our friends in Chicago and New York are still using averages.
And I'll squeeze in just one more question if the chair lets me. How do you, just for fun, how do you compare against Calgary, the other jurisdiction that gives their numbers?
Our response time is better. We're 7 minutes and 37 seconds to the 90th percentile, and theirs is considerably longer at 9 minutes and 51 minutes. 9 minutes and 51 seconds to the 90th.
Is there still work to be done?
There's always work to be done. We're always facing that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The turnout time is from when the fire station begins to receive the alarm to when the wheels of the fire truck begin to turn. Now, the standard turnout time is 80 seconds according to NFPA. Our turnaround time is 185 seconds, which is a deficit of 105. How would you account for that? Because part of the argument the other day was that it took longer, even though from the dispatch time there were issues there from when the actual call goes to the fire station. But then even at the fire station, there's a shortcoming of the turnaround time for a deficit of 105 seconds.
That is the question. In approximately 2008, Mr. Chair, when I was in the communications portfolio, we were asked to examine segments of our times, and it became apparent that the road response time seemed reasonable. The alarm call handling time recommendations from NFPA seemed reasonable, but we were not anywhere near the NFPA target at that time of 60 seconds. So it was in around that time, sir, that we entered into that study that was referred to. The chief encouraged me to participate. 450 departments were allowed to participate. Only 14 chose to. And we submitted a large volume of our unscrubbed data in an interest to see truly where we stood, because it didn't add up to us as a management team, this standard. And when you review the report, I believe that was referred to the other day, I wasn't here, the first thing that the national research body acknowledged was right off the top, it's 123 seconds based on the data that was provided by the 14 departments that were willing to participate. So we looked at that and realized that maybe there is a problem with the standard, and that's where we're going now. We've done.
Okay, but what I'm getting at is, in terms of, there was a deputant that talked about management's responsibility. If you have a standard of 80 seconds or 120, if you want to change the standard from the NFPA, and you're still over, okay, like, wouldn't somebody in authority be questioning as to what's going on, why our firefighters aren't getting out the door as fast as even a higher standard, or I guess it would be a lower standard, then you're talking about that 80 doesn't cut it, so you talk about 120. Even at 120, you don't cut it. So where is the management review, your personnel to, I don't know what you do, drill or measurement and talking to
What-
the stations to say, like, guys, what's going on here? We're, like, this has got nothing to do with the call. It's got everything to do with getting the call here and getting out.
What we did, sir, was when we realized our times weren't in line with those that were being reported out or recommended by the standard, the first step was we participated in the study. The second step was we had the quality assurance process review begin, where we brought the quality assurance officer in. We started in communications moving outwards as to where the call is received, going towards the arrival at the customer. We feel we've made really good strides at the communication center with the technology that was introduced, if I may, and now we're at the process of the fire hall. We still have to install the fire hall alerting system, which is part of our radio infrastructure
I got my
upgrade.
last question in here. I get my
Yes,
last
sir.
question. I'm just having difficulty understanding the rationale that, you know, our insurance rates are going to go up because we don't have enough personnel, we don't have enough trucks. I would think if the rates go up, it's because we can't get out fast enough out of the door to deal with the fires. I would think the insurance would be more concerned about that than to try and put, the way I interpret it, most of the responsibility on that call coming from somebody calling for help and getting to the fire station. That's and then to basically say, well, the fault is because we've got 6 trucks off the road and we don't have enough fire personnel. If you've got 2 trucks at the station, the issue is still getting out as opposed to numbers of people, would it not?
I think that's a fair comment, and what I would say is that when we compare ourselves to like Calgary, which seems to be reporting out by the standard, and when we see where we are now, which is, again, until our infrastructure is up to date, which we anticipate January 1, it's in place now but not up and running, we'll have a true number, but I suspect we're within about 20 seconds, and you're absolutely right. Steps are being taken, have been taken, and will continue to be taken based on that data, because you're absolutely right, it comes down to customer service.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just one additional comment. This standard will be reviewed again in 2014 by NFPA. The data set that has come out of the Fire Protection Research Foundation will be used at that time. And unfortunately, the standards review process takes 5 years.
Okay. All right. No other questions from committee members to speak, if required, on the item? There being none from visitors, from committee members. Move receipt by Councillor Parker. All in favor? Opposed? That carries.
Okay, through you, Mr.